podcast and video number 6 this time. Six. Great to be here. Alan Waterman from Phoenix Health Fitness. Glad to be.
How you doing?
Absolutely delighted to see you here.
Great to be here.
We've had a nice chat. We've chatted a lot on social media.
Yes, yeah.
And we've been following each other's stories.
I think it's all from afar.
Yeah.
Now we're coming together.
Absolutely great to be here. So obviously I followed a lot of your stuff on social, and you're obviously really deep in the industry. So can you give us a wee bit of information about you yourself, how you started off in the industry, or
guys watching, who are you?
Okay.
Let's know a fun fact file.
Profile, bio.
So the guys I've already explained. My name's Alan. I have been involved in the fitness industry now going on about 5 or 6 years. No real kind of background in fitness or training or anything kind of growing up. And I sort of found myself kind of, after I got in the notion of sort of becoming a PT, I sort of found myself getting very much kind of thrown in the deep end, kind of with it. I said no experience even as kind of like as a fitness instructor or anything to kind of begin with. I sort of went head first into the personal training side of things. First off based in a very big commercial gym, so Fitness First Connswater, which is now Better Gym Connswater, and based there for about 4.5 years before I'd started hoping to expand, basically, and that's about 1.5 years ago now, whenever it opened my studio, which is Phoenix Health and Fitness, which is based in Belfast.
By the way, the logo is...
I love the
I know, do you know what? I'm branded all over. I kind of feel, you know.
We've used up all our clothes now, we have far too many.
It's just every single bit of, like, my dog has he is a hoodie and it's got my logo sort of attached to it and everything, so I've kind of gone overkill with it, but
that's great, man. I saw the cup, I saw the mug you have as well.
Yes, well, like honestly, it's coming down with merchandise.
That's like the office of beer.
Merch is good.
Good fits everywhere.
So 5 or 6 years, you said?
Yeah, about 5 or 6 years now.
What did you do? What got you into it? What was the light bulb moment? What did you do before?
My background, like growing up, has always been artistic. So it's my background is largely in theatre, which was a bit of a weird transition, sort of, you know. But
cool.
I mean, I'd gone to Queen's.
Performances and acting.
And then sort of haven't gone down the route of actually thinking, I'll get a degree kind of in this and so on, which was.
So this started at school.
Yeah, it started from a relatively kind of young age, and then sort of developed kind of as I went through school, and then as I said, I kind of went into.
So you studied drama at school.
Studied drama.
DCC.
Right the way kind of throughout school, and then decided, get this degree, and so I went to Queen's, spent 3 years getting my undergrad, and said no background kind of in fitness growing up until I started to become a little bit more kind of interested in it, but my transition into personal training was off the back of an experience from late teens towards early 20s, whenever I had developed an eating disorder. Basically from the time sort of whenever things started, whenever I got involved with becoming interested in fitness, although it started as a very kind of healthy pursuit, it sort of ended up going down a path that it became a little bit toxic.
Obsession.
Yes, exactly, and
huge problem in the health.
What is now, in particular, and particularly more so now amongst guys, amongst men.
And was it talked about a lot whenever that happened to you, probably?
No, it's something that's kind of with the same as all kind of mental health kind of issues. It's something which has become much more recognised now, which is great because there's an awful lot of demand for it to be. And said with eating disorders, anorexia, which I suffered from, but with eating disorders, they do tend to be very classically associated with women.
Yes.
And with statistically, kind of with guys, it has, especially over the past number of years, it has become a much bigger issue.
It's under the radar.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's kind of taboo.
Did you feel there was a lot of support for you at the time, or nothing? Did you feel like you were very obviously been family and friend, and obviously it's a bit tough to tell. People talk to people about it.
Do you know what? I was kind of one of those people, and I'm sure a lot of people who've experienced kind of similar will say the same. I was kind of one of those people who was in denial about it. And kind of, looking back now, kind of in photos, I'd be like, gee, how could you not tell? Sort of by looking at me, that was, I said that took up a good majority of about 4 years of my life.
And was there ever a stage where people didn't take you seriously as a man, or was that never the case?
It was. Do you know what I mean? If it was the case, I would have been oblivious to it.
Okay.
I did become a little bit of a recluse during that kind of time as well. I had all my, it's an awful saying it, but all my friends were going out. I was sitting in my room counting calories. Do you know what I mean? And sort of getting very, very caught up and very, like you said, very obsessive, kind of over it.
So you're saying that's kind of all sort of formed when you started getting interested in the health and fitness industry?
Yeah, part of what led me kind of down that path was because I became so invested in it, so invested in the idea of it, and so kind of eager to learn that I ended up overwhelming myself kind of with information, and getting to this point, I was like, all right, okay, well, how many carbs am I meant to eat? How to do this, how to do that, and
all self-education.
Yes, for the most part, kind of with it, and it was just because it was an interest. It was a real active interest of mine. So I was just like, right, okay. So I want to know how to do this. I want to know how to do this. How to do this, and because it kind of got to that point that it was information overload, ended up doing all these things that over time steadily became more and more damaging. And that's even going off the back of kind of like a lot of sort of classic sort of myths, kind of within the fitness industry and so on. And bro science, yeah. And every time I say that, that's what I never want to say the word bro science, but then people always come back to me with it, and I'm just like, yeah.
That's what it is.
That's it, yeah.
It's a tough time for education. People aren't really educated enough, I suppose, at that early stage as well. And that terrifies them. And as you said, you get stuck in a rut of what you are and what you're doing.
It's kind of
really terrifying.
There's a lot more. The good thing about the fitness industry now compared to 10 years ago, whenever I started to experience this kind of myself, is that there's a lot more. There's a much bigger push towards evidence-based kind of stuff. And if ever you want to talk your way around bro science, evidence-based is the way to go with it.
Because there's a lot of stuff goes on, like, well, this guy says this, I'm going to try that, and you take his word as gospel.
I'll be like, yeah, he's in great shape. Yeah, I'm going to do that as well.
Any backup evidence,
And that's it. I mean, I was a sucker for it as well too. So as soon as somebody was telling me one thing, I said, right, okay, I'll give that a bash.
When you're just entering the industry, that's nearly what you rely on to an extent.
I think kind of as well too. I think part of the way that I kind of see it is, if you're somebody that's going into something with as much of an interest as I did, and if you're taking advice from experts, a professional kind of whatever, there's no reason there that you have not to believe it, because you don't know any better. As I said, and I just soaked it up like a sponge.
The worst thing about it right nowadays is these influencers come across and then they start spurting all this nonsense out. That's the scary thing, because people are not qualified and they're turning into nutritionists. They're not turning into trainers or something like that, which is a terrifying world to be in right now.
So your late teens, you've started getting interested in health and fitness.
Yes.
And alongside that, you're trying to overcome a disorder.
Yeah.
Did that limit you from getting more involved, or were you a personal trainer alongside that?
No, part of my movement into personal training was as a part of my recovery process.
Okay.
Because during that time I didn't go down the route of sort of professional kind of treatment or professional kind of help kind of for it, but I started to get a bit of a better grip on things. And a better way of kind of filtering out all the stuff I didn't really need to sort of think about, and concentrate on. So my understanding developed an awful lot more. And I began, don't get me wrong, slowly, but I began to improve my relationship with food and with exercise. And then through that kind of process, I actually kind of realized, this is treatment. This is as a way of kind of dealing with well, in my case, with a mental health issue, do you know, and I'd sort of seen the benefits then that having a healthy relationship with exercise and having a good understanding of really the stuff that you needed to know about. I'd seen kind of the healing potential behind that, and that was part of kind of what inspired me to think, do you know what, I wonder, you know, would this be something then that could help other people?
Was there any key moment that helped you change mindset or began the healing process, so to speak?
I get asked that all the time with regards to it. I try to speak quite publicly about my experience with eating disorders, and it's the one question that I kind of always get asked that I have no honest answer to. Do you know? The best way I can describe it was that it was such a consistent kind of high level of effort to maintain, and at the time, you know, you just did it. Do you know? You didn't care kind of how many hours or how much time investment there was behind it, but the best way I can describe it was I just ran out of energy for doing it. And it's just that kind of said that it was literally just a light bulb. I just can't do this anymore.
So for anybody watching that maybe subconsciously dealing with something like this, say one piece of advice you could give to somebody that's going through something similar.
Based on my experience, seek the appropriate help for it. You know, don't.
What's that look like? What's the appropriate help?
First off, discussing it with somebody you trust. Okay. Do you know? I don't even think that it needs to be somebody qualified to do it. But first step with it is admitting that there's an issue there. Yeah. And I think kind of going on from that, as I said, personally, I didn't go down a professional kind of treatment route with it, but I don't know how different my recovery process would have been if I had it done. Do you know, I do think it probably took me the guts off probably about four years anyway to be fully recovered,
to be free
from it. And a lot of the things that I sort of tried to, a lot of the ways that I sort of tried to work through it probably weren't healthy initially. And I don't know how much more time, I don't know particularly long term, do you know, kind of with it, I don't know how much more I would have maybe benefited from having, do you know, a different protocol, do you know, for having gone through. But certainly by actually talking to somebody, again, kind of as with all mental health issues, which is something I believe in very, very strongly.
It's freeing. It's freeing.
Yeah, it's cathartic, do you know, kind of even in that sort of essence, you know.
So talk about the first step, and then what's the next sort of things you would have gone through? Is there anything else you would
I think
just from your experiences, anything doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it was. I mean, my experience is that I do genuinely think kind of with this sort of thing. I think that every experience is very unique with it.
Yeah. Sure.
And again, based on what I experienced as I tried to recover kind of from it. I would always want, you know, was there a better way to do it? Yeah. Do you know? And it's, of course, that, you know, there are people. We do have an eating disorder association based here in Belfast, and obviously we have people that are qualified, in terms of actually helping people, you know, kind of recover from that. So that would certainly be something that I would advise, even as not as an initial step. It would be somewhere kind of along that route that I would advise to go.
This is a big way for you now, for your clients and people you're working with now, in regards to just expose that experience, and they can trust you. I think that's quite a cool thing.
Yeah,
it's quite something they can. You've been in a scenario where you've been under pressure, and now you can say, right, I've dealt with this. Now let's see how we can sort you, fix you, and help you as well.
Do you know what I mean? It gives a very good insight to that relationship that people have with food, do you know, and that, you know, that's not just, you know, that's for anybody who maybe is wanting, you know, to lose weight, or people who are wanting to gain weight, and even kind of the body image, you know, issues that a lot of people kind of experience from that, which particularly for me is one of the catalysts for things becoming more toxic with myself, you know, was that issue with body image. And I can certainly empathize, you know, with people who are experiencing those kind of issues.
There's a less credibility there because you've been like, well, I've walked this path.
Yeah, and do you know what? Again, it's like, sort of as I said, you know, with talking about people's experience with it and that, you know, that very individualized experience, you know, that everybody kind of has with it. It is hard, particularly from the other end of things, you know, whenever people are, I got to that point where obviously I was looking to try and gain weight, and eventually it was, of course, the years I gained 5 stone. I know people that have lost 5 stone, do you know? And that, although I can't completely understand the difference in that mentality whenever somebody's trying to lose weight, I can appreciate then a lot of the factors which are involved around that, instead of things with the relationship with food and the psychological sort of side behind it.
The mental aspect is huge.
The battlefield of the mind.
And I think I do think as well too. I think that is something that is very underappreciated, in terms of whenever people are looking to change their bodies. You know, the fact that it has kind of from a mental standpoint. And that's, as I think, you know, that is one reason that I try to address it to as much of an extent, you know, as I kind of can, because as I said, I do think that mental side of things needs a little bit more recognition.
You know,
basically.
So to enter into the personal training kind of industry, what was the first step you took? So you finished uni, you've graduated with drama and theatre studies, something like that. What was the first thing that you did to go forward towards PT? I
got a job to start to earn the money to get myself through my initial level 2 qualification. So that was working in kitchens, cutting up vegetables, all that kind of stuff. And then once do you know what? It was a means to an end at the end of the day. I mean, like, you do what you got to do, kind of thing. You know? And that was, I mean, and that, you know, that came and went, and that was fine. And then it was the opportunity to do a 2-week intensive kind of personal training kind of course, and I just thought, right, okay, I'll just do it. I'd had that much of an interest kind of in things for as many years prior to that I kind of thought, you know, this will be, I'll manage the 2 weeks, you know, I'll be able to kind of get through it, and thankfully I did, and I got my qualification then, and I was lucky from having my qualification to actually start in work in a commercial gym to start off, because I'd been training in this gym for years. Pretty much, yeah. But I had kind of my foot in the door a little bit, because my mum had actually been a client of one of the personal trainers who was there, and she just happened to mention, kind of, oh yeah, my son, you know, he's about to qualify, and I said, oh right, okay. So that word kind of got out kind of from that, and he sort of forwarded it to management, and I literally just got a phone call kind of one day. I was like, you know, do you fancy coming down for a chat? And I was like, oh yeah. So that was
post qualification.
Yes, yeah. So that was basically it. Do you know, do you want a job? And I was like, too right.
And you made the switch from hustling
to hustling more.
Hustling. How did you feel about that? I mean, a scary time though.
Do you know what I mean? It was one of those. You know, at the time, it wouldn't have mattered where I was doing it, you know, or what. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. You know, I was just kind of like, finally, you know, I'm there. And I think one of the worst things kind of about me kind of going in was that, you know, in my head, I was like, oh yeah, I want to go, and I just want to train people. Do you know, and nobody's telling you know, whenever you're going to be a personal trainer, it's like, here, listen, this is a business. Do you know, you need to know how to run a business on it. So it took me a while to sort of really kind of get to grips with that. But across the first couple of years, it was literally just I was just enjoying myself. You know, basically doing it, and actually having the opportunity to do it and to work with people kind of in the, you know, in the way that it sort of I really wanted to. And then sort of as time went on, you know, I got, you know, more heavily kind of involved with looking at the business development sort of side of things, and then I said that ultimately led me to the point that I was able to go out and
did you reach a level of dissatisfaction with the commercial gym life that you were like, no, I want to push this further, explore this more?
Do you know, I mean, there is any personal trainer will probably tell you, there's always those downsides to working in a commercial. You're standing waiting 45 minutes in a squat rack, kind of thing to free up. And it's particularly during those kind of peak times where you're literally fighting to get through, to a piece of equipment and so on that you need. And there were just certain frustrations there about it, but again, by that stage you're just kind of used to it. And it's sort of, kind of since day dot, kind of with it, I'd always kind of toyed with the idea, it would be nice someday to have my own place, Is
that from the very start?
Oh yeah. And I would say probably with a lot of personal trainers, I think it's probably the same, but it's a huge risk, going from a position where you're comfortable, where you have that, you have a very consistent footfall of potential client. Everybody that you talk to on the gym floor is a potential client. To go on out and literally just having yourself, having yourself and clients
into the business. So
that's it.
Is there any? So could you tell fans of the community out there, is there any high and low points that you could sort of specifically point out that maybe you could give advice that you overcame it?
Do you mean
actually starting as a personal trainer from that?
As a personal trainer,
yeah.
I think what a lot of people will see now is that they're maybe going from a job where they have a relatively set income, and again, they have the security kind of with it. Yes. To kind of thinking, I would love to be a personal trainer, and I know a lot of people that have gone out and have gotten their level 2, that have gotten their level 3 qualification and don't do anything with it, and it's kind of, I think for a lot of people, I think that's a major barrier, with doing it and taking that step towards becoming self-employed, as the majority of personal trainers are. And I think it's one of those things that if you are going to find yourself getting involved in, that effort level needs to be 110%. You need to take that all or nothing approach with it.
Yeah, well, you start a business.
That's it, yeah.
The buck stops with you, I guess.
I think you got to have that inner self-motivation to really want to push forward with a lot of things.
Don't get me wrong, I mean, there are some, and off the top of my head I don't know any, but there are gyms out there which you can become associated with and work as a personal trainer for the gym, and you are on a wage for it.
I know if you guys do that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Is that here?
No, up in the Mid-Ulster direction.
Right, okay. As I said, I mean,
not going to name names.
there are definitely those ones out there, and I think kind of with that as well too. I don't know.
You can rehydrate, by the way. You're allowed to rehydrate.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, my hand looks very parched over here.
I think kind of with those kind of situations as well. I do think. I think you have a much bigger potential to do more as a business. Whenever you are working self-employed, and to essentially it depends on kind of what your motivators are. But if it's financial, I think that you definitely have a lot more scope whenever you're completely self-employed compared towards working for a gym. But I would 100% say that if it is a barrier, then if it is a step that is taken, it needs to be one of those ones that it is, like you said, it's that hustle, to begin with, and it's really addressing the business side of things, ASAP, kind of with it, just to really make sure that it does take off,
Cool. So just ask a question, give us a low point, like a tough time being a personal trainer.
At the beginning, even right now. Well, too. Both.
I'll give it. Okay, so I know what this. Going right back to whenever I started. My start date as a personal trainer was, I think it was something like 7th of October back in 2012. I kind of in my head I was like, oh yeah, fantastic! This is great. Many moons ago, and whenever I started working, I hadn't sort of taken that sort of calculation in my head that it was like, right, okay, well, this is a stone's throw away from Christmas, kind of here, and again, sure, any PT will kind of tell you the same. Things kind of coming up to Christmas, are not kind of really in depth from the personal training sort of point of view. And whenever I was kind of coming in, I was just thinking, oh yeah, you know, where's the clients at, you know? And then I kind of realized, oh, you know, well, this is a wee bit harder than I actually thought it was going to be. So that was that probably that initial 12 weeks, sort of right up towards Christmas.
So you started in the gym?
Then I started in the gym. Was literally just, am I going to see it beyond this 12 weeks? Do you know? As a particularly with having kind of no background, and despite kind of having the theatre background, I'm shy enough kind of as a person, so you know, walking up to kind of people in the gym floor, it's like, yeah, you looking a trainer kind of thing, wasn't really my forte, you know, at the time.
It's a surprising misconception for actors.
Oh yeah,
on stage, you're animated, but as a person, you can be quite reserved. Yeah,
and I'll be on that. And that very, very much was the case for me, and it's gotten better, like over time, but particularly from having to sort of strike up kind of random conversations, you know, with people on the gym floor. But that initial kind of step and that initial period, to me, that was real. Have I made the right choice? Kind of here, and then thankfully, you know, sort of coming into New Year's kind of side of things, you know, that's whenever I was just kind of like, you know.
So what happened? Did you manage to get organic growth? Did the gym refer clients to you, or did you have to find your own clients?
They had a process in place kind of for it, which was kind of geared towards shuttling clients towards you, but there was no guarantee from it. You know,
quite competitive.
It always. I mean, I think at the time, I think there were about 9 or 10 personal trainers within the one gym, and you're going to get that. Again, you're going to get that in the majority of kind of commercial gyms, and you know, sort of selling it kind of at the time, kind of as well too. I hadn't a clue how to do it.
Yeah, you know? Of course.
You were just kind of hoping that you would kind of deliver kind of in a way that people would actually be intrigued, you know, to kind of to get a wee bit more information kind of about you and to actually hopefully carry on. But that was, as I said, in terms of the entire 6 years, you know, unfortunately it was right at the start, which probably was the lowest point kind of it, you know.
So start from the bottom line here.
Persevere.
Exactly, that's one point of the life.
Keep
perseverance.
That's it. It's all about effort
and determination. Yeah,
that's it basically.
So whereabouts are you now in regards to your?
What does life look like for you right now?
Life of Phoenix Health and Fitness.
I kind of always need to be working on a project. Do you know if that makes sense? So kind of since about April of this year, I've been working on a book which I've kind of just finished.
Fantastic.
It's kind of you know, it's one of those things, going back to kind of what I was talking about earlier whenever I was talking about this idea of how kind of myths kind of affected me and bro science sort of coming into it. So it's a very kind of evidence-based kind of take on dispelling a lot of that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And as I said, there are kind of other things now which I'm sort of looking into in terms of expansion. You know, in terms of hoping to bring a much bigger service. You know, across kind of to people. So I said I kind of don't feel productive enough, you know, unless I'm doing a project.
What's a typical day in a life look like for you?
Depends on the day, right? But
go on here, podcast, we'll go fit.
I'd say this is the first like kind of for me, like so. I usually you're talking about a 6:30 start, half six, 7 o'clock start, which again, as any personal trainer, you know, that's normal.
Comes with the territory,
and get yourself going with a couple cups of coffee. That's it, and then
you rejected a couple of coffees this morning.
I did actually to begin with. I'm trying to watch a coffee and take or something.
Sorry, keep going.
I usually start in around that time, and it's just again depending on what way the diary is, you know, is kind of sorted. You know, every day will look ever so slightly different.
Is there anything you do in the morning to get your mindset on the day, or get focused, or get tuned in?
Coffee helps.
Coffee.
It's just, do you know what? I've been doing it just for that long, kind of now that I just you just switch on automatic. Do you know? You get up, you get the process going, and that's just it.
So it's half 6, 7. Then what?
Half 6, 7. Couple of clients. Usually there's a little bit of dead time in the morning, which is a little bit harder to actually get.
So you're at the gym at 7?
Yes, typically. Yeah. and then I get my own training in, and then basically as soon as I'm done from that, that's the advantage to having your own place, is that you just jump out, even if you've only got 45 minutes, it's kid on and then just boom, you can just dive straight on. There's no logistics, in terms of getting to a place. And then just straight back into work after that, and usually a little bit of time then in the afternoon to work on projects or to catch up on kind of any other kind of stuff that has to be done.
Would you be a big researcher of top? Would you go and do a lot of readings and things like that, or would that maybe not?
I read a lot,
yeah.
and a lot of it is just out of interest.
Yeah.
If I learn something from it, fantastic.
Yeah,
and if it's anything I can impart kind of with clients and whatever, but I always like getting a little bit of a better insight kind of into things like people talk about like habit development and stuff kind of with clients, but I kind of like to think how and why does this work kind of thing, and I do like to get a bit of a deeper insight into some of these things. But again, sort of I don't get as much time to read as I would like to. Just depending.
You get hands-on, I suppose, at the end of the day.
So you get some time to kind of read, relax in the afternoon, say 3-4 p.m, and then what happens? Do you train right through the end of the night, or?
I usually try and cut things off by about 8:30, and it's literally just so that you get that a little bit of downtime towards the end, and kind of even just mental headspace, as well too, which I think is important for anybody that is trying to sustain their own business. Just having that little bit of time to switch off.
What does downtime look like for you?
I actually meditate as well too. This is something that this is more of a recent kind of thing, but I'm not sure if you've heard of the Headspace app.
Yes, I did. We talked about it on the third second. OLY clothing with this, yeah.
Do you know what?
It's a great app, isn't it?
The good thing about it is because you're not
plugging in, by the way. I'm not plugging in.
I think a lot of people have a very stereotypical view of meditation. Which it's not really about.
Like Zen and Buddha.
Yeah.
And all this stuff, and in fact, no.
Somebody had recommended it to me, and I was just kind of like,
quiet.
It's so easy to spell when you don't know much about it.
Yeah,
it is, yeah.
And I think kind of I just thought because somebody recommended it to me, and somebody said, it's only a couple of minutes. You can literally do it in a minute, and it's only a couple of minutes. So actually, I gave it a shot, and I actually thought this is quite nice. And then it was just off the back of that. I do think it is something which on a day-to-day basis, I said, even especially considering sort of like the hustle and bustle of everything else that is kind of going on, just taking, even if it is just 5 minutes just to kind of clear all that out. And again, I like a lot of the time, even sort of outside of that, like going home kind of in the evening, so on, I'll do a little bit of work like on the book, or I'll write an article or something like that, and I don't consider that work a lot of the time, which I think I do consider myself one of those lucky people in that I know not everybody loves their job, but I'm one of those people that can say thankfully, I do.
What's a good number of clients to take in a day in your opinion? What's optimum amount?
I like to take about 8 or 9.
That's half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour.
45 to an hour. Yeah. I think, and I know people that have literally gone down the route of doing 14 clients in a day, and
just for the sake of money, essentially.
Different purposes behind it. I think sometimes people kind of want to will approach it kind of like, well, I want to take 2 days off kind of during the week, so they kind of have to condense it in, and it's it's time management. I think more than anything a lot of the time, but you're 100% right as well too. People will literally just go, it's like a conveyor belt, and it's great whenever you're doing it, but then because obviously the income from it can be fantastic, but then you're left kind of blown out of your arse by the end of the day.
Do you think the community has changed? Do you think the community has changed as in regards to people coming to you with need to do personal training, i.e. the demographic of people like mums and younger people, you know what I mean, or do it not? Do you feel it has? Or is it just the same sort of people come to you?
I still do. I mean, the majority of my client base has always been women.
Okay.
And I don't know. Again, I will put that back to a body image thing in terms of I do think that there's a lot more pressure, on women to conform, to kind of certain standards and so on, which...
Well, the Instagram world we live in.
That's it.
It's a tough one.
It's a scary one,
And I have seen it more with men, over the past couple of years, but the demographic I don't think has changed for me massively, in terms of who I train, but I would say depending on what your target market is, there may be some markets out there that maybe are experiencing a little bit of a downturn, in terms of how many people are looking into, say, bodybuilding or whatever. So it's a tough one to answer.
So a couple of questions off the top of my head. So a few of my friends, I guess, that are PTs themselves, find it difficult to train themselves when they're busy training clients.
Yeah.
Do you have any light to shed on that?
I can understand why. I think it's one of those things, what starts out for a lot of people as a hobby, kind of in training, and then whenever they pursue it as a livelihood, I think that can, for some people, I think that can affect their own level of enjoyment or return kind of out of it, whenever they're doing it themselves. I'm kind of lucky because it's a highlight of my day, and again, it's a bit of there's a bit of a mental side to that as well too, because it's just an opportunity to switch off, from that first instance, I got to that point of being able to use exercise kind of as a way of dealing with some of those personal demons, so that's something that is still something which on a day-to-day basis is to another extent, it's kind of meditative for me, and something which I don't feel normal unless I've trained or unless I've done something.
That was the second question. How important is it for a PT to continue training themselves?
I think it's... I would know personal trainers that have, for example, seen a bit of a change in their own training patterns because they've maybe made a massive push towards business development, and the time investment kind of with it. I'm not going to spend an hour training whenever I could spend an hour doing this, instead. And again, with complete appreciation for that kind of thing. Again, my own take on it is that this is something that I need to do every day. From not just from a physical health, but from a mental health point of view. And it helps keep me sane, in a sort of way. And I know a lot of people would probably feel the same.
I guess it's an opportunity to continually hone your craft.
Yeah, I mean, I
try things out for a client if you need to.
Do you know what? I mean, I have gone and I have worked with online coaches before previously as well to sort of try and get a little bit of an insight into different training ideas and training templates, and so on, and to really just to kind of learn from it. And I can, from having experienced that as well too, I can appreciate from a client's point of view why they would come to see a personal trainer, because it's that ability to just not have to think, I don't have to go on the gym floor and sort of come up with my own program because there's one getting done for me. So it is, especially again because there's 101 other kind of things going on. I haven't gone down kind of that route for me. Just it made it a little bit more convenient kind of as well too. But it's a fantastic opportunity to learn and take something new kind of away from it. 100%.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go on, Sophie.
I'd love to know, to go back to the beginning. You were talking about eating disorders.
Yeah.
Would you say that there are any signs or tendencies that people should watch out for in themselves that can kind of let them know that maybe something isn't right?
Just to set up for the audience and the mic, what signs are there for somebody that might be going through something in terms of mental health? If there are any, is that the question?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think you will be the last person to recognize them yourself. I think other people will see it in you sooner. We'll see a change in your behaviors and we'll see a change in your habits. I would have, and this was kind of referred back to me, kind of, if you will, I would have had much more of an preoccupation kind of with food. I would have talked about it a lot more. and it would have always been something which would have been on my mind, you know, even whenever I wasn't kind of working with food, you know, I was kind of thinking about it, or kind of thinking, I wonder how many calories are in that kind of thing, you know, and sort of, it was a massive kind of preoccupation with that. Your social tendencies will change kind of a little bit as well too. So, you know, if ever, do you want to go out for dinner? Everything will be like, kind of thing. Yeah. And again, I would say, although you might not notice that change in yourself, picking that up kind of from other people, do you know, as well too.
It's tough to get them to tell you that you're different.
Yeah.
Or do you have different tendencies around that?
It's a difficult position to kind of be in, do you know, as well too.
They'll be closed off almost in that bubble as well, at the same point as you, almost too.
I think kind of a lot of the time, as I said, because I became a little bit more kind of reclusive kind of from it as well too, do you know, people just thought, you know, he's just fallen off the face of the earth kind of thing. They wouldn't have seen you and kind of been like, oh, okay, well, you know, there's definitely something kind of going on there. There's the physical kind of signs, you know, with the, I mean, you will for the most part notice weight loss on a person, do you know, but then that person will do as much as they kind of can, like baggy clothes and all this kind of stuff, you know, just sort of try and hide it as best they could.
Off the back of that, last question for me, are you an advocate for following macros for diets, or do you set meal plans, or do you just say keep feeling today? What's kind of your take on nutrition for a client?
It depends on the person, really. For example, with talking about somebody who maybe does have a little bit of, maybe doesn't have a fantastic relationship with food, going down that route of counting calories and counting macros and so on, I don't think it's a great route to go, and that's based off my experience kind of with it as well too. Things like, so don't get me wrong, some people 100% will do very, very well with that kind of approach, but then there'll be other people that you think, okay, we need to try something maybe a little bit different here. Maybe it is just portion control, you know, maybe it's trying to follow some type of guidelines. I don't really.
The intensity of it sometimes is probably a bit too much. From your experiences, we should just have that. I would be the same too, because I did that from an athletics point of view. Like, I really would not have done any of that from a macro. I would never have done any macros at all. I would never have thought about I would have thought about it, but I mean, portion control would have been one thing I'd have gone with more so than anything. It just makes more sense. As long as you're happy and healthy, as long as you're not killing yourself eating McDonald's every 5 minutes, it's not the end of the world, for goodness sake. It's about happiness.
I do think a lot of people kind of, it's as well too, a lot of people don't have the, it's too inconvenient for a lot of people, you know, to sort of sit and do it, you know, if you're a parent and stuff, do you know, time investment so much.
I'm probably going to get dinner with somebody because you're like, I can't afford those calories.
Yeah.
You can afford a bit of fun, can you?
I've only got 300 calories left, guys, can't do it.
Any more questions from the group? Leo? You doing quiet in the corner?
I just think it's so interesting, like especially with the eating disorders in guys. Like, I wish we could like have like a whole like episode talking about them. Maybe
we never know. Get Alan back in again.
Like I would love to hear more about that because I think that's super interesting, and I think that it's something that's not being talked about enough.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, we'll wrap it up for now because we've been here for 45 minutes. We don't want to take too much time from Alan away, but I really appreciate you coming in. And
guys, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it.
And we'll look forward to meeting again soon.
Brilliant.
All right. Cheers.
Okay.